My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And this review will have spoilers, so that's your warning. But I did not want to watch the theatrical cut of this movie, so I'm just watching and reviewing this one, the better version. And this is a very frustrating movie. Like, there are some elements I love here, but some elements of this movie just piss me off. And I think there's one big positive here, and two huge issues. So let's go into those specifics. First, with what I loved about this movie. The reason why I do end up liking it, and it's in the title. It's the direction by Zack Snyder. Like, not everything he makes works for me, but the dude's got a vision and it's just fully on display here. And I know some people complain about the CGI here, but I think this movie is so stylistically interesting, and I love how it looks nothing like the Avengers movies. It doesn't feel like an imitation or a copycat. It feels like its own thing entirely, and that's just due to the gravitas and the vision that Zack Snyder delivers on. And some scenes can feel a bit too much, but honestly, it kind of works for me here. The scene when Barry rescues Iris, and it's like a 4-minute scene, and you've got that song to the siren playing. I should hate that moment and call it self-indulgent and pretentious, and in some ways it is. But I also feel like it has a bit of that movie magic behind it, and it has emotion and weight, and it's just captured so beautifully. And like, you look at the opening credits to this movie, where we see the shockwaves of Superman's death. That's much better than the other opening we got, and it's just stylistically stunning. So like, I really like the look of this movie. I really like what Zack Snyder delivers on here. I think the world building is very strong. That one flashback where we see the Atlanteans and Amazonians and like a Green Lantern working together to take down Darkseid, and how in the present day, you know, there's gotta be a team up of all these different kind of humans and gods together to take down Steppenwolf. Really well done. I also think Zack Snyder's shows the character's powers off better than most people. Like, Wonder Woman specifically kicks ass here. Like, she is just a complete badass, and her action scenes are perfect. They really are. And I love how epic and grand the action can feel. I love that one shot of Superman watching the Flash as he runs by him. And I think the final fight is great. Yes, it's, oh, Superman shows up and everything's solved, but this is meant to be the appetizer to a much bigger story. And I think it ends on a really terrific note, with Barry going back in time and saving them, and them cutting off Steppenwolf's head and sending it to Darkseid. Badass moment. So there is lots to like here. But my two big issues. Well, the first one is, you know I was going to say this. I say it all the time. This movie is too long. I think the way Warner Brothers treated Zack Snyder was so dirty and disgusting, really. But also, there is no way they could have released this movie in theaters. And like, the longer you are, the harder I'm going to grade you, and I just don't believe there's any justification for this length. There was not enough substance to this story. And like 2 hours in, and you've got yourself some great moments, but nothing really happens in like the first half of the movie. And the second half is much better, but the first half is just this character gets introduced, and this character gets introduced, and this character gets introduced. And now that leads me to the next big issue of this movie, is that it wasn't properly set up to. It kind of reminds me of It Chapter 2, where they introduce every single character, and you get that here, where it feels like it's trying to be a Steppenwolf story, a Cyborg origin story, a Flash origin story, while establishing Aquaman father and showing where Wonder Woman's at and Bruce Wayne, and then they eventually get together almost 2 hours into the movie, and it's just, I feel like that it takes way too long to get anywhere in the plot. And I wish these characters were established ahead of time, so we could have just gotten them uniting, at least within the first hour of this movie. But then it also brings up another issue within this issue, which is the fact that it sets up a real badass storyline. Well, Superman turns evil and villains and heroes have to work together in a post-apocalypse land. Yeah, that is incredible. And I wish we'd ever see it, but we never will. This universe is dead. It's gone. It's never going to happen. So it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels incomplete. And that's not on this movie, really. It's on Warner Brothers, and I'll get it in. Like, how did you mess up this universe so badly? It's just baffling. Like, we could have had a Ben Affleck directed Batman movie. We could have had Zack Snyder's completed vision of this universe, and then they could have rebooted it afterwards and do what they're doing now, but nope, they just had to end it. And it's frustrating because I really do want to see where this story was going, and we'll just never know. Like, it pisses me off that they did this. It feels like a big fuck you to the fans, and it feels like a big fuck you to Zack Snyder. It does. I know people take the love for this franchise too far nowadays, but I understand where they're coming from, and I'm just not a fan of how this entire universe has been treated, and it's just kind of depressing at the end of this movie that this is it. So, yeah. To go into the story a bit more, the alien invasion story is, like, I don't know, it's kind of generic, and then the heroes team up. And yeah, like, I don't know. Like I said, the story's not the highlight. It's the vision. I just wish they kind of moved the story along a bit faster. I do think it was annoying that everybody said that this movie feels completely different from the 2017 movie. But story-wise, it is the same movie, but just better. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of how they brought Superman back. It feels like, I don't know, I get the ideas they're going for because it's to show Bruce's growth and how that eventually comes to bite him in the ass. Like, he becomes a better person, but at what cost? And that's a very fascinating idea, but I feel like Superman's resurrection could have been handled better. Then we get to the cast. And Ben Affleck, I like as Batman. I prefer his performance in Dawn of Justice better, but he's still good here. Henry Cavill, I just feel like we never really got to see him be Superman, if you know what I mean. Amy Adams is fine. Gal Gadot, this might be a hot take, but she actually gives my favorite performance in the movie, and I think this is her best work. She really comes to her own here. Ray Fisher, I think, is fine. Cyborg's just not one of my favorite characters. Jason Momoa, I like in his movie, but he's entertaining enough. Ezra Miller, I've never been a big fan of him as Barry, but he does fine. Steven Hines, I think he's fine as Steppenwolf. He looks much better here, and I like how they actually give him motive. Ray Porter as Darkseid, he's not given enough to work with. Jeremy Irons as Alfred, I actually think he's great here. I love him as Alfred. Diana Lane is fine. Connie Nelson, fine. J.K. Simmons, I really like as Commissioner Gordon, and I wish we saw more of him as this character, but I guess not. And Joe Morton as Silas Stone is also really good. I do have a couple more negatives, and it's actually two of the worst elements of this movie. The first one is the scene when Lois and Martha have a heart-to-heart about grief and trying to move on is a really great moment that is immediately ruined by a reveal that Martha was Martian Manhunter for some reason. It's just one of those stupid what the fuck moments that I really don't get the thought process that went into it. And as much as I think the future Justice League movies could have been great, the foreshadowing is so shoehorned in at the end of this movie, and I think the writing here is so bad, filled with terrible exposition and trying too hard to be dark and edgy. And look, Jared Leto, I actually kind of defend as an actor because I think he's given great performances before. I think he's just the internet's punching bag. That said, his performance here is actually horrendous, and it is an embarrassment. Easily the worst Joker performance. So yeah, like overall, I do like this movie, surprisingly. I wasn't really enjoying it for the first half, but it does come together to me in the second half. It's messy. The movie is structured and paced very oddly, due to just the foundation of the DCEU. The story's pretty generic. It doesn't get to greatness, but at the same time, the movie has great moments, and I think this movie has some great action. I think the characters are brought to life in a very satisfying manner. I think Zack Snyder really delivers on a unique vision here, and I think this movie just is very ambitious. Not everything lands, but what does is memorable. So, but it's also too long. Like, I'm not going to rewatch it because of the lengths. So, I'm still positive, but I wish I liked this movie more. So I'll give Zack Snyder's Justice League a 6 out of 10. Okay, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin, out.